And now we have the interactive moment where we will share questions with our panelists, and they will respond to these questions. Each question we're asking our panelists to limit their response to 1 minute. So I want to ask a question of all of you, beginning with you, Raul. This is from one of our audience members. I'm 21 and my mother just died at the age of 47. What solace does your faith give to my suffering?
I guess we can stay. First of all, I'm deeply saddened by this news. I'm really sorry about your loss. In our view, humanists offer solace and empathy. It's what we can offer. It's a very human emotion without an external force to look for explanation or justification or any sort of way to minimize this human pain. We just accept it as a part of being human, and we extend our own human friendship, brothership, companionship, and all we can do is say, we're here with you, we understand what you're feeling, we can relate to it, and anything that we can do to make you feel better, we will be here for you. But it's not an easy, I must say that I do not recommend to anyone that is not ready to leave God, don't do it. I'm not here to proselytize. I think that atheist is probably one of the hardest life philosophies to live. You need a certain level of maturity, and when tragedies like this happen, yeah, sometimes I wish I could believe.
Same question. Like Raul, I agree with you that that's a great loss. But you are brave and you will get over it. My religion does offer prayers which helps us. See, after the death of a person, we always have prayers where all the congregation, all our friends, anybody who knows us comes around and we all pray together. To us, that helps a lot. And secondly, we look at it that that's not the end of everything. She's probably, if she died that young, she probably had some medical condition for which she was suffering, and the death actually relieved her of that. So that's one positive way of looking at it. As you do feel the pain, but time is a great healer. And your congregations, your friends, relatives, they can be a great source of comfort. And as we believe that, God is within each one of us. He is within everyone. So when you are with any friends or relatives, God is with you. He's coming in that form to give you the solace. Thank you.
Likewise, I offer my sympathy and support to this young person who lost a mother at such a young age. And hopefully you do have a support system, siblings, family, relatives, friends, who can be there with you. And that's one of the teachings of our Catholic faith, is that we are a community. We are what is called the body of Christ. And when one part of the body suffers, the whole body suffers. And so we need to be there for each other. Likewise, I don't know by your question whether your mother died accidentally or at the end of a long suffering, but as was said just a moment ago, if it was the end of long suffering, then that suffering is over. And sometimes when we've been with someone we love and we see them suffering, it pains us as well. But their death kind of ends that suffering. We believe, of course, that there is life after life. That's probably not much consolation now as you're going through grief, but that might make more sense later on. I do believe that the time can be a great healer. But also, what can you learn from this? Maybe learn the value of life. Hopefully you had good quality time with your mother before she died. But never let a day go by without telling people in your life how important they are. Your parents, your children, your siblings, your best friends, because we don't know when those people in our lives will spend their last day here on earth. So to let them know that. And I don't know if the questioner was a man or woman. I forget how the question was worded. But someday you might be a parent. And hopefully you'll realize the precious gift of life of your children, and maybe you'll be a better parent because you lost yours at such a young age. So to learn, even from that tragedy, how to make yourself a better person.
So to whoever this person is, May 9th, 2009, just 3 years ago at the age of 30, I lost my father, and he was 58. So my heart definitely goes out to you. I know what kind of pain you're in. So through that experience, though, the last 3 years of my life have been incredible. And in a way of looking at, the Buddhist aspect of, why did this happen to such a good person? Why are these things happening to my family? A lot of things that go through my mind, but through chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and challenging myself to seek those answers, the one that continually popped into my mind is to live truly with no regrets and to appreciate every single person that comes into my life and challenge myself every single day. So although it's very, very difficult right now, it's probably one of the most trying moments in your life. It was definitely in mine. Keep in mind that every single day of your life is incredibly important, and just work to challenge yourself and absolutely live without any regrets. So thank you.
So I guess the first part is I really am not going to address the question in a public forum. Specifically with that person, I'd be happy to talk to him afterwards. So in general, when you talk about the death of a parent, so I always, like you, I think about my dad and what that meant in that process. And you derive a measure of comfort from community and from the knowledge that love is stronger than death, and that in the memories and the relationship that you have with the person that you care about the most, that goes on beyond their death, and that the best part of them can become the best part of you. And that comes with time, reflection, and come to terms with the meaning of their life and the meaning of their death.
I too lost both of my parents quite young, and I do send out my sympathies. But I continue to feel that I have a loving relationship with both of them. I talk to them. I feel their love and guidance around me all the time, and I think that is something that could comfort you as well.
Thank you. Another question for each of you. Do you believe people are basically good or basically evil or neither? Start with Raul.
Why always me?
That's a question of suffering.
I know.
You can say why, it's okay.
It's a good question. Basically good or evil? I think that I like to believe that we start with a blank slate. It's pretty much, there is no such thing as good or bad in the universe. Some other members here have said, as far as the universe goes, there's no good or bad. It just simply is. So whether something is good or bad will depend greatly on how we label those things. So we do have a certain level of moral relativity as far as what is good today may not be good tomorrow. And what is important, I think, in staying on top of this morality, it's okay to accept this moral relativity as long as we allow ourselves the knowledge of that relativity and the ability to change it as we go. So whether you are good or bad will be dependent on many factors, some of which will be where is your current environment, your current culture, the current age that you're living, and that will answer together the question of whether you are good or bad in that particular moment. And all we can do is do the best that we can at that given time with that information that we have, and continuously strive to accept those changes and become better as we go along.
Good or bad? A lot depends on the perspective we are looking at. Something may be good from my perspective, but bad from somebody else's perspective. Especially when some major events happen. For example, the terror attacks. It's not a good time to bring that topic up, but I'm just going to put it as a perspective. Now, from our perspective, that's very bad. What they did is very bad. But from the perspective of people who sent them to do those things, they are heroes for them. So that's what I meant by perspective. I think all of us are born with inherent goodness, but the circumstances that we go through as we pass through our lifetime, those really do color the way we think and the way we do things. And sometimes, somewhere along that journey, we change. Somebody who was really good before, very helpful, caring, doing everything right, may turn the other way. So, whether that person was he really bad? No. But circumstances had such an effect on him or her that the person lost what was inherent in him, and he changed. Thank you.
I guess I'd believe, in a sense, neither good nor bad. There's a concept in Christianity, I'm not sure if it's in Judaism, but of original sin. And I've struggled with what that means. I certainly do not believe that a child is born full of sin. So the way I've kind of reconciled that is that we are born maybe selfish, and that's important. As someone said, we need a little bit of selfishness in the sense of I need to preserve my life. The strongest drive in the human person is to keep yourself alive. Love your neighbor as yourself. So there's a certain amount of selfishness. Taking care of self maybe is a better way, which is good. But untrained selfishness becomes, as the word indicates, greed, wanting everything from me, etc. And I believe that's what Christianity teaches us, is to deny the self, to put the neighbor first. And so I believe that we need a community. That community could be a religion, that community could be a family, that teaches us to take care of ourselves to a certain degree, and then, we have to stop thinking just of me and reach out to others. The Interfaith Council sponsors a wonderful program called Camp Anytown. And I believe I saw a T-shirt one time that said something like this: nobody is born a bigot. And I believe that's true. Bigotry, prejudice, discrimination, bias is taught. And who's it taught by? Other human beings. So in a sense, I believe we are born somewhat innocently with the drive to take care of self, but we need formation from family and community and church, religion, to teach us to be not so selfish, but reaching out to others.
So from a Buddhist perspective, the answer would be yes. I know I have one or the other, it might be a little confusing, but we believe that every single person has a Buddha nature. Every single person has their own unique mission. Every single person has infinite potential in their lives. They have the ability to do anything that they choose to do. On the other hand, there's fundamental darkness. So the fundamental darkness is very difficult to overcome. Our darker side of our life, there's things that we definitely don't like about ourselves. There's some things that come out like greed, anger, foolishness, those three poisons that really plague humanity. So the fundamental darkness that's inside of us exists at the same time with our Buddha nature. So we challenge our Buddha nature. We chant to bring out our Buddha nature to challenge our fundamental darkness. So as we chant the words Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we reveal our Buddha nature or our infinite potential so that we're able to overcome our own fundamental darkness within us. So that's my answer.
So I would distinguish between evil acts and the nature of man. So there's things in this world that are purely evil. Whether we label them or not, I just think some things are just pretty horrific. It's not necessarily a matter of perspective, it just are. But when you talk about people, I mean, there may be people who are born with mental illness that affects their conscience. But for most people, we have to learn. We have to develop that conscience. So neither good nor bad, but we're taught. We're taught through our faith tradition, through our understanding of the world, how we're treated, how we're raised, and then our conscience is developed. So classically, we have the Yetzer Tov, the inclination to do good, and the Yetzer Ra, and these battle between us. And depending upon how we've refined what we call our neshama, our soul, our spirit, that determines our path in life. And it's sometimes situational. Sometimes we act one way in one situation, and sometimes we act another. And that's because none of us is God. So we keep trying to develop that sense of morality, that sense of the difference between right and wrong. But we're born with the ability to choose. So we're not born thoroughly good, and we're not born thoroughly evil either. It's something that's developed as the years progress.
A lot of pagans believe in original blessing. I do. I think that we all start out pretty much perfect, and that how we behave in the future depends on how we're treated. I think most bad behavior, not all, there is, as Rabbi says, there is evil in the world, but most bad behavior comes from fear or pain or anger. It's someone's reaction to something that's happened in their lives. So if we could be a little more compassionate, there might be a lot less of that.
Thank you very much. Candace, I'm going to start with you.
All right.
These are individual questions for each of our panelists. Is the goddess all good and all powerful? Does she intervene in human affairs to stop suffering?
My concept of the goddess is pretty much that she is all. She's the air I breathe, the water I drink, the ground I walk on, the sun that keeps me warm, makes the plants grow. She is all, and she is not female. She is male and female. She's everything. And as far as, I don't think she interacts with me daily unless I ask for help or guidance.
Thank you. Rabbi, Elie Wiesel said that the night he arrived at Auschwitz, God died. How can God exist in the face of such injustice, knowing that over 6 million would die? Surely God could have done something.
Well, as I alluded to in my remarks earlier, if the Holocaust makes faith in God difficult, it makes faith in man impossible. The Holocaust is ultimately man's inhumanity to man. Because to say it's not, you're basically saying that the Nazis were vehicles to do God's will. And that I cannot accept. But a question like that says God could have done this, God could have done that, implies that what happened was part of God's master plan. And so even though from that maybe you have the state of Israel, you may have this or that, too high a price. So to me, that's not how God acts in the world or chooses not to act in the world. Rather, we as human beings have a choice, and unfortunately the choices that were made by the Nazis was to choose evil. Having said that, in Israel they honor the righteous Gentiles. They honor the people who at great personal risk to themselves and their families stood up and said no to evil. And they did it in Nazi Germany, and they did it in Austria, and they did it in occupied Europe over and over again. What gave those people the power to stand up in the face of evil? People of all religions. Well, there was something there that said they knew the difference between right and wrong, good and evil. And it wasn't just the laws that were in vogue at the time by a corrupt, evil regime. They knew that there was an absolute good and an absolute evil. And in a time such as the Nazi regime, it became blatantly clear. In our times, unfortunately, oftentimes it's blurred, and we have to look extra hard, but it's there.
Josh, why is suffering the first noble truth of Buddhism?
Well, from suffering, we can overcome, as we overcome suffering, depending on what it is, these obstacles that are presented in our life. Being a noble truth, we overcome suffering ourselves, but we also help others overcome suffering, and that is truly the noblest way to live. We can, challenge obstacles ourselves, but also we can work with other people to challenge their obstacles. So, a lot of times within SGI, I've heard the term, don't go fishing. So, that refers to don't throw a line in and try and pull someone out of their suffering. Jump in the water with them, chant with them, and seek to overcome what they're going through, and the two of you will be able to make it through, and that's a truly noble cause.
Father Bill, if Jesus takes on the punishment for all people's sins, where does personal responsibility come in for their actions?
Okay. The teaching in Christianity is that, as I said in my remarks, Jesus died for our sins, but there obviously is personal responsibility, and to me what that is saying is that our sins can be forgiven. So it's not like we are not responsible, but that the ability to be forgiven by God happened through the suffering of Jesus Christ. That, in a sense, in advance, he took the suffering and the sins of all the world and bore that pain through his crucifixion and death, so that we can beseech God's forgiveness and God's mercy, so that God's forgiveness is there through the redemptive suffering of Christ. But we are, of course, ultimately responsible for our own actions and the consequences, which sometimes might include great suffering because of mistakes we have made. Many of our sufferings not only are from other human beings, but from ourselves. We make bad choices, and some of the consequences are not pleasant.
Dr. Pannu, is it true that Sikhism arose as a result of the suffering of Muslims and Hindus who wanted to find a solution? Can you speak to this epic?
I'm actually sort of a little dumbfounded by the question, that suffering of Hindus and Muslims. No, it was suffering of humanity that resulted in Sikhism. Guru Nanak did not belong to either Hindus or the Muslims. Actually, at the time he passed away, his time came by near, and the Muslims, they were fighting with the Hindus of that time that, he was our peer. But Muslims called him peer, that means their religious prophet. And Hindus were saying that he belonged to them. And that the Muslims wanted to bury him, Hindus wanted to cremate him. But guess what? So he went to his room and covered himself with a white sheet. And next morning, when they opened the door, and there was, guess what? There was no body, there was only flowers. Each group took one bunch of flowers, and they did whichever way they wanted to. So Sikhism is neither Muslim nor Hindus. It's a very independent religion by itself. Yes, there are certain things which are common, and as I've been attending interfaith meetings, I found that actually there's so much common between almost all the religions that if we could just accept that, that's what Sikhism teaches us, that every religion is good. Sikhism never tries to convert anybody. We respect each and every one. Always says, follow your religion, the way it's meant to be. Do not give it your personal color to suit your needs, to suit your personality, but the way it was meant to be, and it's good.
And Raul, do you believe in the possibility of reincarnation? What does a humanist believe happens after death?
No. I guess the possibility, yes, of course. There's a possibility for everything. Absolutely. Possibility, always open to it. Highly improbable, maybe. We, in the end, as humanists, decide to live our lives as if it doesn't exist. Any supernatural inclusion in our lives is better left aside. We don't like to give answers to things that we don't know the answer to. Instead of saying, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, our answer many times is we don't know. And it's okay. We can live our life trying to find out the answers to some of those questions. What happens after death is not the most important question for us, really. We start with the assumption that the end of life, when you die, that's it. That's no more, you don't go on, there's no reincarnation, there's no spirit, nothing to follow of any supernatural nature. However, that's what we mean when we say that we believe in life before death. We live our life to the fullest because we know that this is it. We have a very small amount of time on this planet, and it's our opportunity to make the best of it. So this gives us great pride and joy in living our life to the fullest because we know that this is it. And if we want, to, like anyone else, we're looking for survival, for immortality. Well, we achieve it in different ways. We achieve it in passing on our ideas, letting someone else be influenced by our actions, being an example, living your life and taking action to protect the people that need protection, and trying to just leave this a better place than you found it. That is good enough for us. It's okay. And when I die, the people, my children, or the people that have listened to my ideas, and maybe someone tonight will go, you know what, that guy had a good idea. That's enough. This is a way to move on, go on in life. Your ideas, your books, your works, have a child, plant a tree. Those are the things that will follow after you die, and that's how we enjoy our sense of permanence. Thank you.
Great. Well, that concludes our round of questions. We have one more question, which I think is to Josh or Joel or Sandra. What are these flowers up here? What kind of flower is this?
That might be a better question for Joel. They were here when I got here.
Well, they appear to be lotuses, and one thing I know about lotuses is they start in the mud, and they come to the surface, and they only blossom as they hit the surface and receive the light of the sun. And every one of our traditions, and we believe at the Interfaith Council, every one of our traditions shares in common the unity of the spirit of the Golden Rule. And so as we leave this place tonight, there's a little bit of refreshment out here, and I hope you'll stay and share the camaraderie and community. As we leave this place, hopefully all of you, each of you, will have a higher sense of response to that golden rule, and each of us in our own way can begin to move the dial on suffering in our own lives, in our families, and in our community. So we thank you for your presence here tonight. Next week we will be meeting just down the street at the Mormon Church, just up the street, I should say, and the topic will be prayer. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.